Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us to discuss Nanotech Security Corp's first quarter results for fiscal 2020. On the call today, we have Troy Bullock, Nanotech's President and CEO, and Monica Russell, Nanotech's CFO. Please be advised that this call is being recorded. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Following the presentation, we will conduct a question-and-answer session. Instructions will be provided at that time for you to queue up. I'll now turn the call over to Monica Russell.
Good afternoon, and thank you for attending our conference call for the first quarter of fiscal 2020. Troy Bullock will begin the call today with an overview of our results and operational highlights, including a progress update with respect to the goals that we detailed during our year-end conference call 2 months ago. I will then provide a review of our financial performance for the quarter. Following the financial review, Troy will discuss our outlook and expectations for fiscal 2020. After the formal presentation, we will be pleased to take questions. Before we talk about results, I'd like to remind everyone that certain statements in this call may be forward-looking in nature. These include statements involving known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors that could cause actual results to differ materially from those expressed or implied in our forward-looking statements. For caveats about forward-looking statements and risk factors, please see our MD&A for the year ended September 30th, 2019, which can be found on our company profile at sedar.com. Also, as part of the company's business involves dealing with security features for banknotes, you will appreciate that we are quite limited in our ability to provide details about specific customers and prospects. That said, we will do our best to provide investors with general feedback we are receiving from customers and the industry and new opportunities that we are pursuing, as well as give some general parameters on how development contracts are progressing. I will now pass the call over to Troy for an overview of our first quarter. Troy?
Thanks, Monica, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our conference call for the first quarter of fiscal 2020. From the start of my tenure as Nanotech CEO, I set out to advance Nanotech from a research and development company to a diversified product-based company selling our solutions into the brand protection market as well as the government and banknote market. We made great strides towards this in fiscal 2019, and today I'm pleased to report that Nanotech has made good progress against the detailed goals that we discussed on our fiscal 2019 year-end call 2 months ago. The first of our 2020 priorities that I would like to discuss is our plan to diversify revenue. Our goal is to increase product revenue by generating sales of nano-optic products, expanding product lines, and pursuing further growth opportunities for Lumichrome color shifting film. I'm pleased to announce that during the first quarter of fiscal 2020, Nanotech recorded product revenue from 8 orders. This is a remarkable increase from prior years, with 14 purchase orders in all of 2019 and only 2 in 2018. These 8 orders were predominantly for Lumichrome products sold into the government and banknote market and included several orders for test materials related to 4 new banknote opportunities. We are hopeful that qualification steps will lead to more significant revenue in the future. In our brand protection business, we delivered our first live optic product sale into the sports licensing vertical. In addition, we worked with a partner to deliver film for a new commercial application. As a new entrant to the brand protection market, our initial sales into this market may be small, but they are important as they provide the company with strong reference account with recurring revenue, which is an essential step before we're able to attract more significant opportunities. Another one of our 2020 priorities involved developing key strategic sales relationships with established OEMs that have extensive customer bases in our target markets. I'm pleased to report that we have partnered with 2 channel partners in the United States that are now marketing our live optic products. However, timing around when we will see meaningful revenue from these partnerships is still hard to predict. We are still seeing that the brand protection market has a 9 to 12 month sales cycle, which I can share is the initial reaction from both customers and channel partners is that live optic products provides an opportunity for them to showcase more vibrant imagery based on next generation highly secure nanotechnology. Turning to the banknote business, we created a target targeted list of OEM partners that have begun discussions around deploying color optic security features on a marketing banknote house note. These house notes look and feel like real banknotes and are used to showcase OEM capabilities. We see the house note as a first step in empowering OEMs to market our color optic products to their customer base. Our final priority that we established for 2020 was to forge a manufacturing and product partnership for our live optic and color optic products to allow us to more easily scale our business. To date, we have established manufacturing partnerships to deliver our live optic brand protection products worldwide. Through these partnerships, we have expanded our product offering to include foils, labels, QR codes, and track and trace capability. We have also selected an initial manufacturing partner for our color optic products and are currently qualifying that partner. We expect to have this finalized within 6 months, at which time we'll be able to deliver large volume orders for the government and banknote market. In addition to expanding our product offering and volume capabilities, these manufacturing partnerships allow us to focus on our core capabilities and continue to advance our technology. That concludes my initial comments for the first quarter of fiscal 2020, and I'll now pass the call back to Monica to discuss our detailed financial results. Monica?
Thank you, Troy. Before I begin, I would like to mention that all the dollar amounts I refer to are in Canadian dollars unless otherwise stated. For the quarter ended December 31st, 2019, our product revenue increased by 355% from $53,000 a year ago to $243,000 in the current quarter. This increase was more than offset by a 17% decrease in year-over-year contract services revenue, from $1.5 million in the prior year to $1.2 million in the current year. Total revenue decreased 4% year-over-year to $1.5 million in the first quarter of 2020. Gross margin improved to 79% versus 76% in the prior year. This increase was primarily due to higher margins on contract services revenue in the current year. First quarter operating costs were $1.9 million compared to $2.5 million in the first quarter of fiscal 2019. Excluding the impact of a one-time restructuring charge of $816,000 related to our leadership transition in the prior year, operating costs increased by $260,000. We invested more in sales and marketing activities as well as R&D during the first quarter of fiscal 2020, which largely accounted for the increase in our operating costs. Adjusted EBITDA loss of $260,000 was down from last year's adjusted EBITDA gain of $118,000. The decline in adjusted EBITDA was due to reduced contract services revenue in the current period, in combination with increased sales and marketing activity, as well as a reduction in tenant and theme income. Net loss for the first quarter of 2020 was $782,000 compared to $1.1 million in the year-ago period. Excluding the one-time restructuring charges from the prior year, net loss increased by $466,000. This reflects lower revenues and tenant income in combination with increased operating costs. During the quarter, we implemented the new IFRS 16 leasing standards and capitalized our real estate lease for the Burnaby head office and lab space. Aside from the lease liability recorded under this new accounting treatment, the company remains debt-free. We exited the quarter with $9.5 million of cash and $26 million in net assets, leaving us in a strong position to continue executing our business plan. This concludes my comments on our financial results for the first quarter of 2020. I will now turn the call back to Troy to provide an update on our outlook for 2020. Troy?
Thanks, Monica. I've already elaborated upon the progress that Nanotech has made against the key strategic initiatives that we launched for fiscal 2020. Over the coming quarters, Nanotech will continue to invest in our sales and marketing team and initiatives in order to expand our market reach and accelerate our revenue growth. Investments to date include rebranding the company and its products, launching a new website, and increasing sales activity around several key customers. Looking ahead, we're expanding our geographic market reach in the brand protection market with the addition of a European salesperson. We are also investing in our marketing team to drive lead generation and increase our focus on product management. We are getting a lot of helpful feedback from potential customers and partners and are investing to ensure that our product roadmap takes advantage of what the market opportunities are presenting. While scaling up our product sales, Nanotech will continue to derive most of its revenue from contract services to develop novel banknote security feature for a G10 central bank. Contract services awarded for fiscal 2020 indicate modest revenue growth compared to fiscal 2019, with some opportunities for additional awards and revenue growth in fiscal 20. While the company does not have visibility on if or when Nanotech's feature might be integrated into the customer's banknote, management continues to be pleased with the progress on this project. In the near term, we expect that adjusted EBITDA losses will continue as we invest in sales and marketing activities to drive future revenue growth. Quarterly results may vary significantly depending on the timing of new product orders and the recurring Lumichrome orders, which typically affect the third and fourth quarters of the year. We continue to believe that our strategy to diversify our revenue base and pursue strategic partnerships in order to commercialize the technology is sound. While it may take some time to generate meaningful sales, we are seeing growth in the sales pipeline and our technology continues to generate interest from potential customers in key markets. That continues our prepared remarks for today. I'll now turn the call over to the operator and ask the operator to open up for questions.
Thank you. If you'd like to ask a question, please signal by pressing *1 on your telephone keypad. If you're using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow us to treat our equipment. Again, press *1 to ask a question. And we'll take our first question today from Gianluca Tucci with Echelon Wealth Partners.
Hi guys, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my questions. I guess I'll start firstly. Can you elaborate on your additional services PO that you mentioned in your press release and how that translates to revenue in the second half of this year?
Yeah, hi Gianluca. You mean in particular the development contract work in that side?
I believe so, yeah. It was mentioned that that you guys were whether you secured an additional PO. That how should we be thinking about that translating to the second half sales growth?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, sort of October 1, the beginning of our fiscal year, we'd secured contracts for our fiscal year to deliver sort of monthly progress towards that. And they were in and around just slightly under the level we were at last year, but there was opportunities for us to gain additional add-ons to that, if you will, throughout the year based on budget freeing up for the customer. And we were pleased that in this quarter that we did release one of those, and now we're in a position where our revenue target for the year is slightly ahead. We're expecting some modest growth now in that project, and we would expect that to happen for us really, I guess, equally in the balance of the final three quarters.
Okay, so it isn't like we should be expecting some kind of abnormal like lumpiness to your quarters in the coming year or so for the development contract.
No, on the contract services stuff, as we get them, they're typically earned out through the balance of the fiscal year. So that one we achieved right towards the end of this quarter, and to a large extent we'll see that smoothly happen over the following three quarters.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Troy. And on your gross margins, it was a nice uptick sequentially. Is that all product and service driven, or are you generating higher margin on your contracted business?
Yeah, it's still primarily on the services side of things. It's just a significant portion of our business. Whatever happens there really does drive our margins. That said, we are still attracting nice margins on our product sales. I'm so pleased with that. They won't ever be at the stage that we're enjoying now. We're close to almost 80% gross margins on the services side, or the net combined margin. So over time, as that product revenue side begins to increase, I think at that point we'll start to see that come down a little bit. But yeah, we're continuing to enjoy strong margins, and it's largely on the services side.
Okay, thanks. And then just an additional question here on your investments. You mentioned that you're expanding or hiring a person in Europe. How does that translate to your OpEx going forward? How much of a growth as the company continues to invest in its OpEx will translate to OpEx growth?
Yeah, there's a number of things. I certainly highlighted the European salesperson, but at the same time, we're looking to add a number of new positions, which also includes we're doing a search right now for a VP of marketing to add to the team, which is going to really help us in helping us with product definition and lead generation, particularly in both markets, frankly. So that's something that we're attracting. And then there's a few other people joining the organization, or we're in the process of recruiting, which is going to be for the on the science side, because as our revenues grow, we need a few more people to deliver that product, and that could be both in our Thurso operation on the thin film side, but it can also be on the brand protection side as we're producing more live optic images for delivery there. So what does all that mean from a cost standpoint? We are expecting our costs overall to trend up, but they'll be they'll be modestly. They'll be maybe $150,000-$200,000 type per quarter. We're not going to see a dramatic move in that. We are still very much focused on keeping our margin growth, or if you will, revenue and margin growth, somewhat in line with our OpEx line. I think for this year there'll be a minor delta where we'll see the cost outweighing that a little bit, because we're really wanting to position ourselves for significant growth for next year.
Okay, thanks. And then just my final question for now is on the product side. Can you talk to the visibility that you have today into the balance of the year? How far out advanced are you accepting POs? And you just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, on the product side, again, there's kind of two markets: the government and banknotes and market, and then there's the brand protection side. In the government and banknote side, those products at this stage are primarily focused on the Lumichrome optical thin film. That's the product that we have available to sell today, and a number of the orders that we've enjoyed in the past, we've typically had 2 orders over the last number of years, 2 customer orders, and they've tended to be recurring, and we're expecting those to continue to recur. And so we have some good visibility. They typically happen in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and we would expect those to happen again this year and then again in future years. So we have a nice base of, those 2 customers to build on. This last quarter, with these sort of 8 purchase orders, we've seen opportunity now where we're on several new banknotes with our Lumichrome, but as well we've done some testing and have been qualified for a number of new banknotes that we'd like to win that business later this year and again have that recurring. So I think we're starting to see a nice base level of growth in products as it relates to the Lumichrome business that's expanded from 1 or 2 customers into something that, by the end of this year, I'd like to think that we're on, 4 or 5 times that with respect to, different banknotes and more customers. On the brand protection side, we're continuing to build out that pipeline, that sales funnel, or that sales process, as I said, is typically 9 to 12 months. We've now been selling it for about 9 months, and we've had 1 sale in the licensing vertical, which is good. We've still got a pipeline that's got upwards of 20 or so different opportunities in it that we're working on closing. I would expect to close on some of those and see more reference accounts later this year. I think the process of the closing of those is, we're targeting reference accounts so that we can have, more credibility when we start to talk to larger customers. And so for this year, I think the goal in the brand protection space really is more transactions, more reference accounts that are all going to be recurring, but setting us up to do business with larger customers for next year.
Okay, that's all great color. Thanks, guys. I'll hop back in the queue.
Thanks, Gianluca.
Next, we'll hear from Ben Yesick with Stifel.
Hi. I do have a couple of questions, but I guess the first one is just to make sure I understand the question on the 79% gross margin. I think you said services, but I'm assuming you meant the contract services, that it was the main contributor, right?
That's correct. Yeah, the combined margin is 79%. Majority of our revenue still comes from contract services, and we're enjoying high margins in that.
Okay, good. And I think I'm still going to ask a question about revenues because obviously you have shown, a pretty decent balance sheet, and you're very conservative on cost. I think what the market is really eager to see is, potential to generate a revenue momentum. So you're mentioning the brand protection space in two U.S. channel partners, and then government and banknote market. I wanted to ask as well. If you can just elaborate, what kind of brand protection, what kind of channel partners, which industries are targeted? Any color you can shed on that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ben. Good questions. You're right. As we enter into this path and the strategy of of commercialization of our technology, kind of moving from that R&D stage into a product-based stage, it is a step process. And how I would describe it is, the first step for us from last year was to develop some products, commercialize that capability, build out a supply chain so we have the ability to deliver it and begin selling it. That was all about 2019. We have a number of products. As we go into this year, the next stage for that is build out that product portfolio so that when we're meeting with a customer, we're not showing them one or two samples, but we have a portfolio of things to talk to them about. That includes broader offerings, including the QR codes, track and trace capability, serialization, different add-ons and things like that would meet their needs, so we're not really walking through the door as a one-trick pony. The next key for us is, as we talk to these customers, they're very interested. They look at the capability, and we are getting positive feedback. They'll look into, wow, that is a brighter image. We can see the effect. We get that. Who have you done business with? And certainly at that stage, we promote our banknote customers, and we talk about that. But we really need more reference accounts. And so we were really excited to win that first one, the World Baseball Softball Federation. That's a huge win for us because it's a high-profile account. People recognize that name, and that's a good win. And certainly in years past, we've had the UFIA World Cup tickets. So we've got a couple solid brand protection, if you will, customers. But we need more. We need to have 5 or 6 or 7 of them, so we really have that credibility that as we're walking through, we can start to see those into more meaningful, larger revenue opportunities. So you're right. Our path to do that is more leads, more people on the street. We're hiring a European salesperson. Our sales guys now are meeting 30-40% of the time. They're traveling, talking to customers. So we're talking to more people. We've secured that supply chain, which is really solid, so we don't have to worry about the production side of things. And now as you've alluded to, we've started to add on some channel partners. And so just recently, we signed up a couple of channel partners in the United States. We've got a couple of more that we're talking to. I'm not quite prepared to pass on their names yet. They've asked us at this stage not to because they're just kind of readying themselves. But what I can say is their makeup is typically of somebody that's been selling labels into the U.S. market. One of them is really into the packaging market. One of them's East Coast, one of them's West Coast, and one of them's selling into the government and ID market. So we've kind of attacked 2 different verticals in the brand protection space, and we've kind of got regional representation on each coast. And really what they're doing now is taking the products that we have and marketing it to their customer base. And again, our drive there is for us to get more reference accounts so that we can have more credibility as we move up the chain into larger opportunities. you made a good point there about what the market wants, and certainly what we want to see is, okay, how do we measure that? How are we starting to see that we're generating revenue momentum? And I really think it's those steps that have to happen before you start to really move the needle on the revenue growth side. So the fact now that we have upwards of 8 products or 8 transactions, customer sales in the quarter, that's a huge change for us from where we were in the past. That's great. The fact that our pipeline is growing is another really good indicator of that. And then as we start to get more of these reference accounts over the finish line, which I do expect to happen in this fiscal year, we're going to be much more positioned where we can actually start to really move the needle on the revenue side, which will really be into 2021.
Okay, and then just on the government and banknote market, so you're saying discussions with several OEMs. If you can just say, so marketing, how to design a marketing house to enable them to market the color optic product. What does that really mean? So basically, they will help market the product, or is
there's kind of in the government banknote side, there's similar themes, but slightly revised for that market. So again, it's a product-based strategy. So in that market, we are promoting what we have to sell today, which is a great product, which is our Lumichrome optical thin film foil. And so we're talking to existing either central banks or OEMs that want to use this as a product that they can introduce into their banknote offering to win more business. And we've been successful in 2019, and a good portion of the work that we did this past quarter was around the progress we made around that Lumichrome foil. So we're now into way more banknotes than we've been in the past, and that momentum, that increase in the number of people countries that we're working with is going to continue, and is going to build up that revenue base. On the color optic products, so this is the nanotechnology products that we drive for the government and banknote space. The first step again for that was to ensure that we had a high secure partner that could produce this product, and we've been qualifying somebody for the last couple of months. Again, we just came out with our first product in October. The qualification exercise around on who can produce this in the billions of units. We found one of the best partners in the world, and where we expect to have them fully qualified, within the first 6 months of this year, and then we'll be in a position where we can ship and deliver basically unlimited volumes into that banknote market. So on the selling side of that now, we've been focusing on 3 or 4 OEMs that have interest in taking our color optic technology, either using one of our designs, like our color depth, or a unique design that they want to participate in making, and producing a house note for each of those countries, for each of those OEMs. This house note concept is really a marketing sample where they produce a real banknote paper product. They'll have its own design on it. It'll have their name on it. It'll have our name on it. And they have another partner's name on it. And they use that through their sales process to demonstrate to central banks the effects that we can produce and the quality that they can deliver. And so in the industry, it's really how a lot of the sales process happens, is these companies produce these house notes, these marketing notes, and it gives credibility because you can actually see and touch that security feature in a real banknote, and it gives credibility to that central bank to make that decision to want to buy that. And so for us, that's a very important step to get them selling, is to get us into their marketing material and make these house notes. And we've got indication by a number of them that they'd like to proceed with this. And now it's an exercise over the next number of quarters to go through that and get into their sales channels.
Okay, thank you. And I have just another question, sort of carrying on that banknote business, and I'm sorry if it's self-explanatory, and I'm just hoping I ask it the right way. So, are you targeting with these OEMs a potential business directly in the banknotes that will be in circulation, or is sort of the first stage until we kind of try you out, while you can be in some of the anniversary notes and then sort of graduate to banknotes? Is there some process like that, or are you like immediately, potentially in the running for banknotes?
Yeah, it can actually be both. And so there's examples where we're aware of a country coming out with a new banknote, and they're looking for unique security features. And one of these OEMs, as an example, is wanting to win that business. And so they've looked at our technology. They like the color depth capability, and they're wanting to partner with us, use our technology onto their banknotes so they can win that business with that country. And so in that case, it's not a commemorative note. It's an actual real circulated note that would be launched somewhere in the next sort of 18 months to 2 years. So it's not like we have to go through this once we get partnering with these people, that we have to go through this 6 or 7 year process to bid on some banknote. There's opportunities that come up in front of these companies every few months, and they're constantly bidding on them, and some of those deliveries can be as early as 12 to 18 months later.
My last question, and I'm assuming that you probably won't be able to answer it, but at least maybe give a flavor. Since I assume that your current development contract is, as you say, with the G10 central bank, I assume that would be a very, very nice reference account if you could disclose it. My question is, would you be able to disclose it in 2021 or 2022, or is it still up in the air?
Yeah, it's a good question. You're absolutely right. It would be an incredible reference account to be able to mention who that is that we're working with. The timing of when we can disclose it. And so first of all, just to address the why we can't disclose this part. So in this industry, it's very important that you're confidential with who you're working with and who that partnership is, because as you can imagine, in this customer's case, they're paying us, they've signed an agreement with us for $30 million, and to develop a security feature, that alone it gives us great credibility. The fact that we've got such a prominent country prepared to do that. But what they don't want to have happen is have somebody out there, a counterfeiter, start to figure out who we might be working with. And by the time we're ready to launch, or they're ready to launch their banknote, they've already figured out that it's Nanotech that's doing that work, and therefore have already started to figure out ways to counterfeit or simulate or what have you. And so that's their disaster scenario, and certainly ours as well. We need to make sure that when this does finish, that it is a high security feature. We don't want to give somebody several years advance notice on that. So that's the reason why that confidentiality. When we've asked the question as to where they thought when they thought we could announce this, and it really comes down to a couple of different triggers. Once they've made that commitment that they're inserting it into X banknote and the commitment's there, it will likely get announced to a supply contract at that point in time. Once they actually move out of an R&D development of a security feature into a situation where they're saying, okay, now we're going to place orders for things. So that'll happen long before it hits the street. That'll happen in the ordering stage, and then it might take a year to make production and then launch. That's probably the time that they're authorized and we're disclosing who that customer is. Unfortunately, I can't say when that timing is at this stage. Right now, I can say that the progress is going well, and why I believe it's going well is because we're getting a lot more input from the customer on designing the security feature that they want. It's being much more customized to a specific banknote, denomination, and it's starting to incorporate some of their countries' imagery into it. So it's no longer a test note. It's an actual replication of what they may want to look like in that banknote. At the same time, we're also starting to get more recognition from other influencers within the customer, not just the people responsible for designing the security feature, but we're also getting very strong feedback from other people outside that government agency in adjacent agencies, which have a strong influence on making those decisions. So we're very pleased, and so is the customer, with the progress that it's going. The actual announcement date and on exactly which denomination, it's still too early for us to announce that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your answers.
Thanks, Ben.
This concludes today's question and answer session. I will now turn the conference over to Mr. Bullock for any additional or closing comments.
Great, thank you. First of all, I guess I'd like to thank everyone for your questions and for joining our conference call for the first quarter of fiscal 2020. I look forward to updating everybody on our continued progress during our next call, and I'll now pass the call back over to the operator, say thank you from both Monica and I to all the shareholders, and pass the call back to the operator for the final closing comments.
This concludes Nanotech's first quarter conference call. A replay of this call will be available until Friday, March 13th, 2020. Please refer to Nanotech's website for the replay details. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.